Hello everyone, a very welcome to ixamBee, and I am really happy to see the response you people have been waiting for our today's guest, Mr. CP Mohan. And I am really thankful for his time. Mr. CP Mohan has actually agreed to spend this Sunday morning to guide the students and to guide us. So I am just telling the brief about Mr. CP Mohan. So Mr. CP Mohan has recently retired as Chief General Manager of Nabard. He is a postgraduate of an Indian Institute of Rural Management, Irma Anand, from where he did MBA. And he is a graduate from GV Pant University of Agriculture and Technology, which is in Uttarakhand now. He has worked with Nabard as Chief General Manager and is known for his leadership in field of microfinance, rural finance, and bankers training. His interest includes SHGs, farmers organizations, farmer producing organizations, FPOs, watersheds, tribal development projects, rural entrepreneurship training programs, building of cooperatives and regional rural bank and other things where Nabard is involved. So he has more than 3 decades work experience tenure with Nabard, and apart from his role in building strong rural financial network in newly formed states like Uttarakhand and Jharkhand, he is also known for his role in supervision and financial institutions. He was recently a member of the expert committee on amalgamation and mergers of three-tier cooperative banks for Government of Kerala, and he is recognized for his contributions to building up NAFIN, where he also served as managing director. Mr. Mohan was involved as a leader of support for team of the Khan committee, whose recommendations of BCBF model are well known to all of us, and it was later accepted by RBI and Government of India. And now you understand that how popular the BCBF model in taking up the financial inclusion in the country. Mr. Mohan has also worked for College of Agriculture Banking, Pune, RBI, and also for Gujarat Cooperative Milk Marketing Federation, Anand. Currently, Mr. Mohan is lead advisor on microbanking and agriculture lending at ESAP Small Finance Bank and a project director on and lead consultant on FPOs at ESAP Multi-State Agro-Cooperative Society. And he is also an independent director in the board of Satya Macro Capital Limited. So I'm really grateful to Mr. Mohan for making his time available for this session. And I would request him to guide the students, those who are preparing for competitive exam, those who want to make career in banks in public sector organization like SIDBI, Nabard, RBI, because in your more than 3 decades of experience of working with Nabard and also interacting with all banks, RBI, SIDBI, all kind of financial institutions. So I will request you, sir, you can start this session by giving guidance to the student that how they can make a career in public sector finance. To you, sir.
Yeah. Thank you, Joshi. It's first of all, let me compliment you on this initiative. Helping out these youngsters. The kids, as we say, in shaping up their future and trying to help them out in their interviews. Great initiative. And thank you for giving me an opportunity to be part of this. So, friends, I don't know how many of you are there. First of all, let me wish you all the very best in your endeavors and your, when you go on for interviews and so on forth. CP, if you could, I'm also CP Mohan, so we could call each other CP, I believe.
Absolutely fine, sir.
Yeah. So you could probably lead the discussion, and I just landed from Delhi at Bangalore, and
Okay.
I am now traveling to place where I'm staying. So there could be minor disruptions. I got my Wi-Fi on, but there could still be,
Yeah, but right now we are able to hear you properly. It is working fine.
So let us. I I think I would request you to lead it now.
Yeah. So yes, so my idea was that, sir, if you can start with the general guidance to the student, those who are interested in making career in in public sector institutions, so like public sector banks, Nabard, RBI, SIDB, NSB, and public institutions, what kind of career people can look forward for?
Mhm. Well, friends, as I said, my compliments and wishes to go inside. So, if you're looking for public sector, see, let's look at it this way. It depends on how hungry you are, okay? Um,
VOS, VOS, Nabard.
so it depends on how hungry you are. It's public sector is a steady pace job. You don't get too many jumps and extraordinary privileges, extraordinary monetary benefits as you would expect in a in a private sector. Many private sectors are, however, not very rosy. That is something which you will understand if you ask your friends. No, and so in the public sector, you have essentially a steady way of steady career. I would, if you could ask me a few questions, I would understand what exactly you have in mind. But public sector, by and large, if you are a steady worker, if you're a good worker, you generally get to get your promotions more or less on time, and you will go. When you are in a public sector, you essentially look for a vertical growth.
Right.
You look for a vertical growth, right?
Correct.
But if you are outstanding, there are always very many lateral opportunities which will come. Like for example, but it will be very, very minimal and depends on what you are essentially. Like you would notice that I had been, as you know, I have been the managing director of their very successful subsidiary. In fact,
Yes,
I
yes.
built it up.
Yes.
I was in the College of Agriculture Banking as a faculty. I've had opportunities to go abroad. I've been with the Khan Committee and so on and so forth. So that is essentially how things are in the public sector. So maybe you could ask me, and then I will respond.
Yeah,
I
sure,
will
sure.
I will be off for about a minute because I'm just getting into a lift. Oh no,
Right,
sorry.
sir. So not
No,
a
it's okay.
problem.
You can ask me. You can
Right.
ask
Not
me.
a, okay. So what I will do in the meanwhile, so I am reading some of the questions people have posted here, and I
Okay.
will repeat to this. So people are interested in knowing more about the questions that may be asked in the Nabard interview, and
Okay.
that is one important thing, because you have more than 3 decades experience in Nabard, and you must have been sitting in some of the interview board also.
No, I have not been in the interview boards of
Okay.
Nabard. Yeah. Uh,
So,
but
but you
that's
can
okay.
guide the student, because
Yeah, yeah,
many
certainly.
trainees are coming, and you are seeing that what are the qualities you look for being a officer in organization like Nabard. So one guidance for that how and what kind of preparation people can do when they are going for interviews.
Yes, yes. Yeah. Let me just
Yeah,
talk to you.
you take your time, sir. No problem.
1 second. Yeah.
So, guys, in between, I would request you to post your questions. I am reading your questions. I can see some of the questions from Ashish and Vinas and Shankar Chaudhary. So, I am going to take up these questions one after another with Mr. CP Mohan. And I have already told you about his profile. He has more than 3 decades experience working with Nabard, and he retired as Chief General Manager. And he is actively engaged with many organizations, including like small finance bank, other microfinance companies. He has long career in the rural finance area, including. Yes, sir.
I'm sorry. So, friends, um, first of all, if you any of you are working previously, hello.
Yes, sir. You are audible.
Uh-huh. If any of you were working previously, that would be definitely an area of questioning and inquiry. Okay, they would ask you what you were doing, why are you leaving the organization, uh, have any any spectacular achievements, uh, any spectacular achievements. They would specifically ask you why, what prompts you to leave that organization, and they will ask you uh, why you are joining the institution you are joining. For example, if you're joining Nabard, they would ask you why they're joining. They would expect you to know quite a lot about Nabard. Our website, unfortunately, is not very friendly, but if you spend some time on the website, you will get to know our departments, the programs, the financials, and so on and so forth. They wouldn't be very much bothered about the numbers, but they would definitely be more bothered about concepts. They would be bothered more, they would like you to know about the areas of interest of Nabard, um, probably a bit of history. Um, you know, so Nabard incidentally, takes care of three basic functions. It has got three pillars of, fundamentally, it has got three very key pillars of functional pillars. Am I audible? Am I clear? Please stop me if there is, because we are on the air, and
No,
there
no.
could be,
You are audible, sir.
So one is the finance function, where Nabard gives refinance, but primarily refinance. There are certain direct finance opportunities from Nabard um, for in infrastructure and so on. But essentially, so you have a finance function. Secondly, you have what is called a development function, where we promote NGOs, we promote the SHGs, we promote the FPOs, we promote watersheds, we promote tribal development projects, and so on and so forth. So we promote entrepreneurship training. There's quite a lot of grant which is given out by Nabard. The third functional vertical is the supervisory functional vertical, wherein Nabard what do you call, supervises the RRBs, the regional rural banks, and the cooperative banks, the district cooperative banks and the state cooperative banks. So there are three functional verticals. And what was the other question, Joshiji?
So this was a very broad question. So now I am coming to sir some narrow specific questions. So Chaudhary Shankar is asking if we have to compare the job of a deputy collector, like in various states it is called like SDM in UP and Uttarakhand. So these are state level administrative job versus a job of probationary officer in SBI and versus a job of grade A officer or grade B officer in Nabard. So what one shall go for?
You see, the profile in the government which you spoke of, the deputy collector or the grade, class 1 government officer or the IAS. Okay. These are jobs pitched with enormous. Hello?
Yes, sir, you are audible.
So these are jobs profiles with enormous basically vested with a lot of power. Okay.
Right.
And if you are whereas that is the primary that I would say as the, if you ask me what is the single defining factor, I would say that that is you are vested with enormous power. If you are a deputy collector or a district magistrate or even your first even you as a trainee in the class one officer, you tend to be quite powerful. You will have decisions coming your way quite early in your life. If you are a probationary officer in SBI or a public sector bank, SBI and other public sector banks, you would quickly be drawn into the credit function initially, mostly. And if you're good in communications, etc., there could be opportunities which may come your way in the corporate offices for communication, being working with senior personnel and so on and so forth. But it'll take a while. It will take a couple of years for you to get entrenched into that system, and you would become a fairly a siloized. You understand siloized, a narrow area of operation, and that would be where you would be mentally and capability-wise confined to. If you are in Nabard, you don't come out with any much kind of power. You essentially come out with opportunities. In the first couple of years, you would be actually. This is a grade A or grade B. People have asked for grade A or grade B. These people are.
So people are asking in general the job of Nabard officer. You can specify.
Yeah. So this would be a very general job. Nabard, what happens in Nabard is Nabard has got very many departments. If you look at the website somewhere, if you play around, and you would find 13, 14. I myself don't have any specific count. It keeps changing also. 14, 15 department. It has administration. It has microcredit. It has got refinance. It has got short-term credit. It has got farm policy. It has got off-farm policy. It's got corporate planning. It's got communication, corporate communication, and it has got business initiatives department, and it has got a department of economic and affairs, economic research, and so on and so forth. So there are multiple, large number of departments, and so nobody in Nabard is a specialist in any particular department.
Yes.
We have funds, we have accounts, we have IT, but in all these, even in all these departments, people would keep changing from one department to the other.
Correct.
Okay. So we can say that in Nabard, it would be generalist.
Right.
At the end of the day, if you want to pitch yourself, like for example, if you're looking at a private sector function, you would probably try to, to be in marketing or in finance or in HR or in operations within sales or sales per se, or things like that. You could be in finance, you could be in audit, you could be in specialized departments of that kind, or you could be in product development, where you could vertically go on, and your CV would be, in a way, vertically rich. You understand what I'm saying?
Right, sir. So I also actually keep on saying to people that the job here is more of the generalist, and we develop the expertise in that particular department, and we learn, and then we move to the next department. So I think it is a good overview from you. So some of the students are asking in the interview what kind of questions can be asked, particularly about the Indian economic system or the banking sector in India. So what kind of questions or discussions can be there in the interview?
Yeah. Let me just go off the video. Let me just look at some notes which I have.
Sure.
Yeah, broadly speaking, as far as the one second. So as far as the economy is concerned,
Yes.
There could be questions on there could be questions on primarily it would be on agriculture, rural development, rural economy, rural GDP. They could probably ask you about a bit about demography in the sense that you all know we are supposed to reap a demographic dividend and so on and so forth. So that could be one area where they could be asking you. They could ask you about state of rural infrastructure. They could ask you about the human development indices. If you are in a particular state and if you have had any association with the development sector, if any of you have had, they might probably ask you what is the HDI of your particular state or the country, its comparison, why it is low. They could ask you about a bit about poverty. They could. So those are the questions they could ask you about economy. They could ask you about how the agriculture sector is changing. They could ask you about what are the issues in agriculture in India. So if you are, by chance, if you are an agriculture graduate, they would probably get into some things like specific crop areas, yields, and so on and so forth. Anything more you want to know?
This is good, sir. So I am asking like because the students are asking more specific question. We have one Dr. Mahadev Kharge. He is already working as a veterinary doctor. So he has applied in Nabard for animal husbandry section. So he is asking if he has been selected whether he will work only in that department, and being coming from the veterinary graduation and working as a veterinary officer, whether he has some advantages.
Dr. Karge, if you're leaving veterinary department to join veterinary Nabard,
Right.
you should leave veterinary department. You get what I'm saying? You get what I'm saying? Yeah, no, you should leave it behind you. This is more of a, initially your first two positions, grade A and grade B. I assume all of you are appearing for the officers' tests,
Right.
officers' interviews.
Right.
There would be quite a lot of clerical work, and it is. I told you it's a steady process. It builds up in Nabard. We used to have what is called a technical services department, where if you had come in as a veterinary specialist, you would have probably remained like that. What happens is that the promotion opportunities are very limited in that, and in any case, we do not have it now. We do take specialists because we need people to look at projects and we do our planning process and etc. But you would end up doing everything in Nabard. What I'm saying is I don't want to give you any, show you any pot of gold at the end of the rainbow and things like that. We should be very clear about what we are getting into. And I think as a fiduciary, it's my responsibility to give you the right facts, right?
Right.
So you would be very useful for them, for Nabard, to look at the sectoral papers. They publish sectoral papers on veterinary, on animal husbandry, on, within animal husbandry, they would break it down into pig regulatory, small ruminants, large ruminants, poultry, this, that, and also, and everything that they have. And they every annually they do national level planning. They have a plan prepared, a credit plan prepared for every single district, 600 odd districts of this country, and you go through every, the technical people vet the technical part of the document. They would require people with specializations, but you would end up actually desk-wise. That is, it's called a desk where you work. You would probably be working in accounts. You would probably working in the planning department, in the credit department, in the refinance department. You could be working with the RIDF, the state projects department, where the rural infrastructure development fund is financing takes place through the RIDF. So I'm afraid I don't have a, that's the answer I have for you, doctor.
Okay, so I think this is good one, sir. So I am mixing two questions here. So some people are freshers also, like Anup, Amit. So they are asking if they are fresher and whether they have any disadvantages. Second, there are people those who have worked in some area which is we can call social sector or working in non-profit. So people like Avinash. So they are asking whether they have advantage of working in non-profit when they are going for Nabard job.
You see, so you have non-profits, you have experienced people, you have freshers. Let me tell you, number one, this is, the process you have gone through is an equalizer, okay? So nobody has any special advantages. It is not as if, but if two people score equal number of marks, then maybe whatever special, that is how every ranking takes place. I hope all of you understand this. Hello? Hello? Hello?
Yes, sir, you are audible, sir.
No, I would like to get a response. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Correct.
So there are no special, but if there is an interview where everybody gets, the 3 or 4 people get the same marks, then your relevant experience, your relevant, sector, etc., can play a role. But
correct.
if you are a, forerunner in your interview marks scores, then there is actually absolutely nobody is going to get a better score because he has got an experience or he's from the social sector or if he is an agriculture graduate or so on and so forth.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So if you do well in the interview, you have one number. That number comes without any bias towards who you are. It's an equal ground on which playground on which you stand now. You're all at the same starting point on a short race. I would call it a short race because an interview is a short race. Okay, that is one thing. The second thing I would like to tell you is age is a definite advantage. Age is a definite advantage. Because if you have longer age, you can go all the way up to DMD and so on and so forth.
Yes.
So people who have done their PhDs, people who have done, have experience, people who have taken a long time studying multiple degrees or stuff like that, probably are a little advanced in age, and that would, because as I told you, it is a steady progress. There would be time frames within which you can get a promotion and so forth. Everything is not fast-tracked. So by and large, if you're a young fellow, it's an advantage on the contrary, yes, provided you do exceedingly well in your interview. Yes. Let me tell you one thing. With all due respect to our diversity in our country, English language is primarily the preferred language for an interview. It essentially comes because you have about 3-4 jokers like me sitting around, okay, we come from the same diversity. We all come from the same society. That is something which you all must appreciate. Everybody, every smallish community, this unity in the country comes from the same society. Okay, so since we come from the same diversity, there are people from all over. Sorry,
Right.
were you wanting to say something, Joshi?
No. I am just listening, sir.
Okay. So therefore, the preferred language would be English.
English.
Kindly ensure that you speak well. Speaking well does not mean an anglicized English. Okay. Speaking well means speaking clearly, making, ensure that people understand what you say, what you want them to understand. Don't, so you should be very clear, precise, and short in your responses. Number one. English, if you brush up, if you try to speak, and I would please request you to keep speaking only in English among whatever friends circles you can get. Right now, I am not assuming anything. I am not even suggesting that you don't know the language. I am only saying a basic thing which I have I want to convey. That's one thing. Dress well. You dress not for yourself. You dress for the occasion. You dress in respect of the people whom you are meeting. Okay, this is something which, as an etiquette, you necessarily need to remember. You should probably keep aside all your what do you call, youth rebellion away for a while, and groom yourself, dress yourself well, present yourself for the people. It's not for you that you do this. It's out of respect of the context, out of respect of the people whom you're going to meet.
Correct.
Thirdly, if you don't know an answer, it is no, I don't know. It's definitely that. If you have not understood the question, there are two ways of dealing with it. One is you could ask very humbly and politely, but firmly. Let me tell you, humility does not mean a body language where you become very, subservient and so on and so forth. This is something which all of you should remember throughout your career, I would say. Humility does not mean that you need to be subservient in the way. You don't have to, bend down and touch feet and stuff like that. You can be, you can be humble with your head up, with your spine straight, with your shoulders squared. But you should be humble. You should be politely ask them, I could not understand the question. Would you mind repeating it? Or, would you kindly, let me know what you mean, sir? That is one way of looking at it. The other way of asking it is what is called paraphrasing. Paraphrasing means you could ask them, sir, you asked about the grain production in the country. Is that what you asked? That's what I understood. Can I proceed on that? You could proceed. What is the agriculture production? Suppose somebody asks you, what is the agriculture production of India? It's slightly vague because it's slightly broad. And then you could say that, sir, shall I respond to you about the food production? Was the question mainly on food production? Was the question mainly on grain production? You could ask that. Okay, paraphrasing So do not rush into your responses. Take 10 seconds. The count of 10 is very important in many situations. So take 10 seconds, assimilate the question and respond. Don't take too long. Don't give an impression that you are, manufacturing. You don't know, and you are manufacturing responses. You are expected to know things which are asked. So what was the other question?
No, I think this you have explained in very detail, sir, because you have actually created the interview room in this discussion, and you also answered about including dressing, body language, and how to ask the question if you have not heard it properly. So I think this question you have answered. So I am asking one question which may be helpful for not only this audience but many people, those who will watch this recording later on also, because you have long experience working with public sector organization, and in this you have also seen, like many private sector organization, you have seen the development sector in very detail. So not only for those who are preparing for public sector exam or who are going to make a career in public sector, because nowadays youngsters are also looking for career in other sectors. That may be
Yes, yes, yes.
purely commercial private sector, or that may be a development sector. You have a balance of responsibilities towards your personal growth and development. Also, you create impact on the society. So, and you have been closely working, interacting with institutions like World Bank, IMF, ADB, and you were a consultant also with IFC. So, any guidance to youngsters about growing career or making career in, because you come from that background, you have been a graduate of IRMA also. So, any
Yes,
general guidance you want to give to students for different career opportunities?
yeah. Yeah. So I am quite aware that I am now addressing what is now, fashionably called as the millennials. Am I right?
Right. Definitely.
So yeah, and I therefore understand. I think to some extent, you can see all my hair is gray, so or white, whatever. Yeah. So, but nevertheless, I think I do understand having two, kind of rascals at home. So I would millennial people at home. So yeah, it's of course I understand you look at wide perspective of jobs. So if you're looking at the multilaterals, which means the World Bank Group, the IFC, the World Bank, the IMF, UNDP, FAO, or if you're looking at bilateral or international development agencies like the DFID of the United Kingdom, or the GTIZ of the German government, or the Swiss Development Cooperation of the Swiss government, or KfW of the German government, and so on and so forth. Essentially, they have programs. Okay, they will have focus. So you must try to get, and much of the material would be there on the web. Okay, let me tell you, you need to do a lot of cyber research to understand what they're looking for. So all these people would have country plans and their focus for the year or for a couple of years, or for 3 or 5 year horizons, and so forth. So if you are working in that particular area, for example, farmer is a focus. Low income states of India, which are Jharkhand, Orissa, Bihar, Uttar Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, UP, that belt is called the low income states. Is a focus of most of the multinationals at this point in time. They have gone away from most of the other zones like south, west, north, etc. They are now concentrating on what is generally known as the LIS. So you must understand what are the programs they are looking at. UNDP as a country paper, if you look at that, and if you see if you fit in there. Technology, financial technology, fintech is one area where many of them are working. Tribal development, poverty, these are in these specific areas only. So if you have some competencies in those areas, on those, their programs, they would be. If you are good at watershed management, if you look at it, good at dryland agriculture, if you worked in those areas, you should you should try to approach them. They have, most of them will have short-term consultancies, STT, short-term, something like that, STCs, short-term consultants, where where they give a maximum of 150 days of work, in their projects. So you go to their tender, their sites, and you could keep applying for that. Let me tell you very honestly, there's a lot of referencing which takes place in all these organizations. If you have some seniors, if somebody whom you know, your teachers, your anybody you know, it is good to cultivate a relation with them in all these organizations, SDC or because there's a lot of referencing. The point is, you should understand they are taking people for specific work for very short durations, and they are under, and all these are based on log frames, on various, there are multiple deliverables as far as the project leaders are concerned. So they, so they look for some comfort that this person would deliver. So please keep, if you any of these, international development agencies, multilaterals, if you know people, it pays to two things. One, to keep a relation with people whom you know. Two, understand their programs and develop a CV towards that. You could try to converge your CVs. I would be very honest and frank with you. Is there anybody from accounts in this group? Accounts?
Accounts nobody said, because some are civil engineers, some are food tech graduates.
Yeah. There's something called creative accounting. That is what happened in this Satyam computers, or that's what happens in many many companies. There's a lot of creative accounting where they will do. So similarly, you need to do a creative work on your CVs. You will have to make your CV aligned with the project focus of the organization, and particularly the project in which you are working. You're going to apply. It's not, mostly it will not be very broad. It will be very specific. So it would pay, even if you're in Nabard, for example, if you work in watersheds, probably you will have opportunities with KFW and GTZ and so on and so forth. If you are in somewhere related to public policy, there are a lot of work that goes on with the SDC on public policy and so forth. UNDP has a lot of work on livelihood. So if you're working in the non-farm sector, if you're working in the social sector, dealing with livelihoods, agree, non-agree, whatever, off-farm, on-farm, etc. So the Skill India missions are another great area of opportunity to work, where employability, creating, training, entrepreneurship, etc., comes up quite in a big way. The nation has gone on a mission mode. You have the NRLM, the National Rural Livelihood Mission. You have the National Rural Health Mission, and so on and so forth. So those are also areas where mostly they go for contract employment, but they are very broad function opportunities. There, they just look for your attitudes. There, if you're willing to be in rural areas, if you're going to, attitudinally, are you willing to put in long hours and so on and so forth? But they are basically very broad function areas. So that is in short, I would like to say.
Yeah. So if I summarize this answer, I would say that one has to develop the expertise, and one has to also develop the network. And the third thing is one has to prepare or build the CV around it, so that you are, whatever project or whatever organization you are trying to get into, so accordingly one has to build that your career profile also. So thanks for this answer, sir. So now I am coming to
one quick point. One quick point is which would mean that a person would have multiple CVs, multiple focuses. Yeah. Okay.
So you have to highlight the thing which will be substantiating that you can actually work in that project. So you rightly answered that within a very brief timeline, there are so many deliverables for the project lead. So one has to be showcasing the abilities to perform in that small group. So now I'm coming to more specific questions people are asking, like somebody asked that if he is preparing for UPSC, so shall he say so during the interview when he is going for interviews for Nabard, RBI or other banking exams?
you don't have to volunteer. If they ask you, you will have to be open about it. If
So
they
they will
don't ask
just
you,
not take it negatively that tomorrow you will come join here and you will again prepare for civil services?
not really, because everybody don't get through. And if if you are aspiring for something big, nothing wrong with it. Nothing wrong with it.
Perfect. Perfect, sir.
But I would say that you should not volunteer it. If only if there is a specific, if you have applied, then you are actually committed to it. If you have not applied, if you're preparing, you can say that I'm an avid reader and I keep preparing for if an opportunity comes. I have not taken you can always say that I have not taken a decision on it.
Right.
But if you're committed, or if you are already cleared the prelims or something like that, then you're committed, and then you need to say that. I would again say that it's better to get into a creative answer on this. Typically, they would not take it wrong.
Okay.
But let me just expand on it. If you are an an excellent candidate, then it would be, maybe they would feel that you will go away and things like that. But whatever I have seen, I hope I'm not wrong, it will not go against you, with the caution that you need not volunteer the information. If you can, you can always say that at this point I'm not considering it, but I cannot say that I will not do it if there is a specific question. Okay. So this is a tricky question. Okay.
Yes, sir. So a lot of questions I actually listen from a student, and here also Amit has raised this question again. This is about the transfers in the job. So job like Nabard are all India transferable job, and so it like CGM or SBI or RBI. So people have this concern that can they be placed at one place, and if they don't want to take transfer, so how it will be, how is the life, the schooling of the kids, the personal life, moving from one place to other place. You have experienced this all. So your views and how organizations see it, how the top management of public sector institutions see that how flexible one has to be for transfers.
So just to make it a bit light, let us take a case that you will be transferable. And you will be transferred from New Delhi to Tokyo, Tokyo to New York, New York to London, and London to Helsinki, and so on and so forth. How would you see this?
I will be happy to see the world.
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's essentially a mindset. It's essentially a mindset. It's essentially how you manage situations around you.
Correct.
So many of you who say that I would like to have a steady job in India would probably answer my question differently. Can you just ask the kids how they respond to this?
So I have not seen the response. I think they can now respond to it. So guys, I would request you can respond to this on the chat. So we will like to share with sir also. So but I would tell you, sir, because I write on Quora also. So I also reply to this question like this. See, if somebody has to take up a job at certain level, so like Prime Minister Modi has also moved to Delhi when he has to take the job of Prime Minister, and Raghuram Rajan moved to India from US, so where he is a professor, to take the job of RBI governor. So there are every job has like some position, some postings. So a job with a big organization cannot come to my home place, my home district, my home state.
Absolutely right.
So I also agree with that.
Yeah. So let me now expand on it. Tell you a little more about it. If you're joining Nabard and RBI, except for one stint with the district, you will always be in the state capitals. You would have necessarily, probably, you will get one in, I would say, about 5 or 7 chances that you would have one posting in the Northeast. I'm saying 1 in 7 because the total population, total employee population of any of these organizations in the Northeast is very limited. So you could escape the cycle. but there is a 1 in 7 chance that you could be in the you will have to face in the initial, if you're a grade A and grade B officer, depending on where you enter, if you're entering as a grade A officer, and if you don't end up whacking your supervisors, rubbing them on the wrong side, you would probably be in one center, you would for 6 years, then you would get shifted, then another 6 years, and then you could be shifted at much shorter intervals thereafter.
Right.
But you would always be in the state capitals.
Right.
And beyond the grade C level, you will always be in the state capital, and you would enjoy certain perks and so on and so forth. As far as schooling is concerned, it's a bit of a concern. If you're younger and if you're, just about getting married, or if you're very small kids, it's always advisable to opt for the tougher job in the early years, because you could manage the education of kids up to about 5th, 6th standard fairly okay all over, even in the Northeast and so on. When you get into 7th, 8th, particularly 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, it depends. It's very difficult to give you a straight answer because I don't know your personal individual profiles, how much lead time you have when you kid gets into 7th or 8th standard, See, 8 plus 6, 14 years timeline if you have, if you are not yet married or if your child is just 1 year old, So that's the time when you could work well and get into higher positions. If you take your district position, if you take your northeastern job, options early, you can manage your education without any difficulty. If you are slightly advanced in age, maybe 30, 35, and your kids are just about to enter into 7th, 8th standards, or if you are looking at lateral changes and if your child is into colleges, etc., then you need to consider a little more carefully. But I assume that there are, essentially, I don't know how you look at it. If you are a person who is who wants your children to be independent after say 12th or maybe after the 12th typically or after graduation, then your place does not matter, I mean, in the sense that they would be into hostels, because one school of thought is that would expose them to being a smart kid on the street, and so on. So that's it. But it is transferable. There is no escaping. You cannot be on one place, and you cannot grow being in one place in any case. Yes. And any indication that you are not very amenable to it would be taken negatively. I can also tell you both RBI and Nabard, any kind of recommendations, any kind of pressure that if somebody brings on the management is, even if they have to succumb to it, I'm just being very honest with you, even if we have to succumb to it at this point in time, it is always recorded in your personal file and it will come back to you. It's a very, very clean organization. Both these are very clean organizations, high integrity organizations. They just do not, like that.
Right. So, sir, now I will tell you the response of the student to the question you asked. So people are happy and they are saying that, yes, it will be amazing to take up such a job. They would like to see the world, and somebody is interested in music. So Amit says, provided he gets a classic music, so he would be happy to work anywhere. So people are in general responding very positively to that. So before we close, I would take 1 or 2 quick questions from you. So two questions. One actually is applicable for many of the people here. So Anup has asked this, that if somebody goes with a very average profile, very average marks, and many of the students, those who are going for these kind of jobs, are not coming from top institutes, top universities, so they have nothing very significantly great in their resume or biodata. So, what are their chances making a final cut? And the second question, which is asked by Rupam, is whether Nabard support any higher education like MBA in agri management after somebody joins in.
I will take the first question first.
Okay.
First of all, why did this question come? Why did you ask this question at all? This question probably you asked because you don't feel yourself confident. There is a certain amount of lack of confidence. There's a certain amount of feeling of inferiority. Am I right? Otherwise, why should you ask this question? But look at it from the other point of view. Why should you bother about this question at all? You have beaten them all. You have beaten the best institutions, those classy profiling, the St. Stephens and the Loyolas of this world. And you have still come to the interview stage. Am I right or wrong?
Right.
Those of you, if you come to that interview stage, I assume some of you have already come, and you would anyway face this particular question requires an answer only when you come to that stage, right? Right? So you have beaten them all. Why the hell should you feel any lack of confidence? So the first pronouncement I would say is that shed your inferiority complex, shed this complex. Be confident. Believe in yourself. Believe in yourself. Believe in yourself. That is important. There is nothing. How are you? On the contrary, it could probably be a strength, a positive, that you have actually made it to this level through a competitive process. In spite of being in a village school, K.R. Narayanan came from a village school. He was the first nominated IFS officer of this country. He became the president. He became the JNU vice chancellor. He was the ambassador to China. So what I'm trying to tell you is, it is not as much. But if you are seen to be, your feeling of incompetence, if you present yourself with lack of confidence, if you are ashamed of saying that I am from the government boys' high school of Bastar, sir, so I don't know. Then you're not making a mark. You must say that I'm from the government high school. I had wonderful teachers, and given my situation, I think I have done exceedingly well. Nothing wrong with it. So I would say that it is not whether you will have any disadvantage. Number one, you will not have a disadvantage. You will not have a disadvantage. On the contrary, you have an advantage if you are able to present it. That having come from, hello?
Yes, sir, I am able to hear you, and actually I am thinking I used to do the same. I always used to present this as my advantage, having come from.
Absolutely. Yes. So that is my response to you. So whatever time you have left, I would request you, please dress properly. Let me tell you one thing. Don't mind me. You can always give me some allowances. Being, I'm sitting far away from you, so you can't beat me in any case. So give me an allowance. If you are not dressing very formally normally, usually, every dress takes a time to sit on you. For example, if you are a person who do not use a tie, and you want to use a tie for the interview, if you use a tie only on the day of the interview, you will be very fidgety about it. You will be very conscious of it. So a dress, if you're wearing a overcoat, if you're wearing a suit, if you're using a blazer, if you're using a tie if you are using, you know, if you're not used to using pants, whatever, you know, it should sit on you. You should be able to carry your dress. And therefore, I would say that whatever time you have from now and the interview, you should start wearing that dress. You should ensure that that dress sits on you. You should start speaking in the language in which you propose to respond to the interview board. If it's in English, which mostly they will ask you in English, you should try to cultivate your language. Be confident. Don't bother about grammar. Don't bother about grammar. Don't bother about pronunciation. But bother about the content. Bother about the meaning of what you say. Bother about the fact that you will convey to them what you want to convey. You must understand the question properly. You should necessarily reply to the question. It doesn't matter even if it's broken English, it doesn't matter. You are not there to write English poetry. You're not joining Nabard, you're not joining SBI, you're not joining anywhere to write English poetry, right? So it doesn't matter.
Right.
And please don't lack any sense, have any sense of lack of confidence because you come from a rural area, because you do not have a very glorified convent school education. Doesn't matter. Everybody don't come from the public schools of Ooty. Doesn't matter.
Right. So, sir, the other question was about the opportunities of higher studies after joining the Nabard.
Yeah, they do permit you to do that. They also encourage people to take up higher degrees once people join. You might, I don't remember now, but there could be small little incentives. Everybody is encouraged to pass the CAIIB, the Certified Institute of Bangalore, etc. They encourage you to take a PhD if it's possible, but you will, only thing is that most of it would be in service, what do you call, the opportunities would be to do distance education mostly. Otherwise you will have to, there's no education leave which you get, specific leaves which you get. You will have to take your own leave or this one. You will have to manage it if you're doing a PhD, for example, if your contact periods, you will have to manage it within yourself and so on and so forth.
Right, sir. So one or two quick question again. So somebody is asking if he has applied for a selected discipline like animal husbandry or food tech. So these people will be getting the promotion opportunity for other departments also, or they will stick to this department throughout their career?
You're talking about Nabard, right?
Nabard only, yes.
No. Nabard, I don't think there is a specific department for animal husbandry. Okay. What they do is, in every cohort of selections which they make, every group, every year, they would pick up people with multiple different disciplines, subject to their performance in the interview. And there is only rural development services. RDBS they call it, Rural Development Banking Service. So you will have everybody will have equal opportunity.
Right. So in the interview, if somebody is not able to explain in English, so can one use Hindi?
Yes, absolutely. You tell them, it would be advantageous if you tell them in advance.
Okay.
Yeah, that I am more comfortable. Even as you go in, you could, because they would be more prepared and they would appreciate it. And and legally speaking, that cannot be a reason to deny.
Right.
Yeah. You're protected.
Sir, I am also getting a lot of messages from students like Amit, Anup, Ashish. They are also thanking you for your guidance. And I also feel that you have given good amount of time. So my last question is that your success mantra you would like to tell to the student. So anything you want to conclude with?
Not a mantra or anything. I always see, everything teaches you. If you can you ask one quick, back and forth? What is
Yeah.
it that you have learned from James Bond movies?
Learn from James Bond.
Movies, yeah.
Yeah, James Bond movies. I think for me it will be the confidence.
Okay, just ask the kids. Quick point. If
People
they
can respond to it, guys. You can
quick,
respond to
quick,
what you
quick,
have learned
quick.
from James Bond movies. So we have to wait for a few seconds, sir, because the response
Yeah,
comes
that's
in
fine. That's
chat.
fine, sir.
Yeah. So people are replying what they have learned from James Bond movies. So I am
Yeah.
repeating the question. So Anup says being cool and smooth.
Okay, okay. Then.
Yeah, let me see. And
Hmm.
Avinash says, Ashish says daring and risk.
Okay.
Avinash says just go for it. Don't think much.
Okay. So I will. What it's
And
for the
Rupam said
result.
attention in details. So that is also
Uh,
interesting. Attention to details.
okay. So I would go back to one of his earliest movies, and the name of the movie is Never Say Die. I think that is what you should learn from James Bond, number one. So never say die. There is nothing. You never give up. That is
Yeah,
one thing
we
which you.
got that response also, sir. Shankar has written be positive, persistence. Narmada has said persistence to complete the mission. And taking attitude, never giving up. So people have taken it also. Great.
Absolutely, yeah. So never said die. That is. It's there's actually one name of one of the early movies. So never say die is one thing. Secondly,
Right.
secondly, my success mantra for a long time had been I always go by what I term as the facts, figures, and science. Facts, figures, and science. Please take your decisions. Please do your analysis. Please do your reasoning on the basis of facts, figures, and science. Science means logic. It should be logical. So you don't respond on the basis of rumors. Don't respond on hearsays and so on and so forth. Whatever you are analyzing, whatever you are deciding on, whatever you are building a perspective on, please work on, please try to get facts, figures, and science. And as educated, this is the second thing. Never say die. Work on facts, figures, and science. And and uh, the third thing I just skipped what I wanted to say. Um, Yeah, and attention to detail. Attention to detail. You should always be able to, please remember, there is no point going to work and starting digging at 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock. As you enter the office, there's no point. You should always be able to appreciate the work which you're doing. Always work, understand the context, understand what is to be done, analyze it, and then get on to it. In other words, anything which comes before you have to be defined. If you are able to define a problem, 90% of the time you would be able to find an alternative to that problem. If you are not able to see, so let me ask these kids, what is a problem? When does a big problem become a problem? We'll just sign off in 1 minute. Yeah. Can you quickly respond to this? When does a problem become a problem?
So I am waiting for their reply, sir. So the
Yeah, one
questions are
second.
asked is when is the problem a problem? Because normally there is a transmission lag also, sir. It
I
goes.
understand. I understand. No issues. I am only worried about your time because
No, no. So for me it is comfortable, sir. You have given your time. We are actually very humbled.
no, it's a very noble thing which you're doing. If we can mentor the youngsters, or because they are the people who to whom this world belong.
Right. So I'm reading the responses now. So
Ah,
Rupam wrote, not understanding the problem makes the problem worse.
okay,
Amit wrote, when we don't have a solution for that, then it's the problem. Madhav
okay,
wrote, when you refuse to attend the problem. Shankar has
okay,
written, when we feel that we can't solve it.
Yeah.
Suchita wrote, when we think that it's very difficult.
Okay.
Avinash wrote,
Okay.
when we don't know what the hell it is.
Okay. Okay. Let me respond. In life there is no rights and wrongs, but in a very succinct, concise way, a problem is a problem when you recognize anything as a problem. You get what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Unless and until you recognize that it is a problem, it is not a problem. So your ability to recognize an issue, anything as a problem, is where it will make a difference between you and the other person.
Correct.
If something comes before you and if you recognize it as a problem, if you procrastinate, if you say बाद में देखेगा, अरे यार वो तो you tell ask that person to do it, you can always get away from it. But if you recognize a problem and then you define that problem, this problem is happening, I am not getting a particular deliverable, this particular NGO is not doing what I want. You can write 100 letters, but if you are able to get into the details, ask them, do you have what have you done with the funds? Do you have workers or staff to do this? Is your CEO giving enough time? Is somebody monitoring it? You get into the details and probably you will be able to analyze the problem, define the problem, and if you are able to recognize a problem, if you are able to define a problem, you will, and if you are able to bring lateral perspectives which to in that analysis, then 95% of the time you would be able to find an alternative to get out of the problem. That is, so recognizing of a problem is the first step towards identifying a problem. Okay, so that's what I have to say.
So I think, sir, I'm really very, very thankful on my behalf, on behalf of the ixamBee team, and on behalf of the all students, those who have been participating in this session. And you have really made this session very participative by interacting with the student. And hope that sometime in future we can again contact you. You can
Yeah.
guide student. You can really help them by mentoring with your experience.
Yeah.
So
One small request. I would like to get a 360. If there is any feedback the kids could give me, it would help me because I would like to mentor. I would like to take this forward. I would like to work with you, Joshi. It's a great initiative. If there are more opportunities, and hoping that our times would match,
right, sir.
I would, it'll be great to be in touch with you, to be associated more of your initiatives.
Right, sir.
Thank you so much for this opportunity, and all the very best to all of you, Avinash, Rupam, or all of you.
Right. So thank you, sir. So thanks, students, for your time.
Okay.
Pleasure interacting with you.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot.
So I'll sign off now. Thank you so much.
Yes, sir.